Teal dear, this guy. Ho, this freaking guy.
Hello, Rebels, and welcome back to my life.
Nice job calling your fandom Rebels. That way they can feel like they're fighting some evil empire like it's Star Wars and shit.
I'm here to out myself, to come out of the closet and declare myself a feminist.
Or you could just come out of the closet. No one will judge you.
Actually, I've never really been in the closet about that. Women's rights are obviously very important to me if you watch much of my channel, as are all human rights.
I have watched a large amount of your channel, and it's shocking how frequently you entirely miss the point of everything you're talking about.
But I've never just gone and said, yeah, I am a feminist, so here's that. Does making that declaration make a difference? I don't know, I don't think so. I think that your actions are more important than what you say, but it still feels kind of good.
And currently, your actions consist of pressing a few buttons on your keyboard and flailing your arms around like a spastic while you're talking.
You can get some weird reactions when you're a straight white male and you declare yourself in favor of women's rights or human rights or racial rights or whatever.
Yes, and a lot of those funny looks seem to come from the people that you claim to be supporting, such as these feminists here. As you can see, how to be a good male feminist ally, which I assume is what you're trying to do here. And you'll notice that it repeatedly tells you to... well, it kind of contradicts itself. As you can see here, it just tells you to read as much as you can about feminist issues, keeping in mind that the mass media is going to lie to you at every single chance that it gets. You need to talk to women or ask questions, and then in point 3 it tells you to not ask questions because it's not feminists' job to educate you on anything. And then it goes on to say in point 4 that there are many differences amongst all the different schools of feminism and that all of their infighting is only made worse when you then bring evidence to the table, so you need to just listen and believe, as it were. And it just goes on and on and on from there, talking about how basically feminism has a lot of internal issues and that any man who comes in from the outside making any statements or claims towards it is merely doing more harm than good, so you need to simply sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen and believe. Oh, and then there's also the little point down there that when it says a woman says something negative about a man, you just need to leave it alone. So all of those women out there who are in favor of, like, International Male Castration Day and reducing the men down to 10% of the population of the human race, guess what, guys? You just need to shut the fuck up and let them get on with it. So considering all of these points were authored by a feminist and a woman, I find it very surprising that you, as a feminist supporter, are now going to dare to go on and talk about feminism. The matriarchy has spoken, after all.
And the Venn diagram of people who give you those weird reactions and the people who are probably bigoted in one way or another is pretty close to a circle.
Well, at least we agree that feminists are total bigots.
Listen, some people will say that your declaration of support means less because you haven't gone through what the people in that group have gone through, and I get that.
So even though feminists out there are saying they don't need the support of people like you, you're still going to give it to them. You oppressive shitlord.
But if the necessary requirement for supporting a cause was that you had to be one of the members of that group, then there would be no such thing as supporting the cause.
But these are strong, modern, independent women who don't need no man. Just ask Emma Watson.
I think, or at least I hope, that allies have an important part to play in the fight for equal rights.
As long as those allies sit at the back of the bus, don't ask questions and go along with everything, then sure.
But too often, people are afraid of being labeled as a social justice warrior. That's one of those internet terms that has come out for people who, are campaigning for feminism and, equal rights and marriage rights and all that sort of stuff.
And telling men that they're not allowed to wear their favorite shirt to work. And trying to make it illegal for a man to disagree with a woman. And trying to make it illegal for a man to even look at a woman. And trying to make it so that even if you interact with a woman in an online environment, you are raping her.
Now, specifically, some people dislike the word feminism because they see it as an analogy for female supremacy. And looking at the etymology of the word, I can see where they're coming from, even though they're still wrong. That's not what it's about.
Because there are no examples out there at all, ever, of any feminists ever saying that women are superior and men are just inferior or lesser creatures.
But being afraid of the term social justice warrior? Who doesn't want to be in that club? Seriously, who came up with that term and who came up with it as an intended insult?
Sarcasm. Do you speak it?
Let's break the term down word nerd style.
Please don't miss the point entirely. Please don't miss the point entirely. Please don't miss the point entirely.
Warrior. One who fights for something. Also, just a cool word.
Cool word indeed. Generally reserved for someone who is actually a combatant or has actually been one, but I'll let you have that for now because it's close enough.
Justice, which means equality or fairness, and is also a very cool word.
Okay, you're doing pretty well so far. Let's keep going.
And social, having to do with a society or culture. Not the coolest word.
Holy crap, you got there in the end, and you actually defined all three words kind of correctly. However, you have missed one very fundamental thing, and that is, in the term social justice warrior, social and justice are not two separate words. They are used together. You see, when you run the words social and justice together to form one word, what you end up with is a hierarchical philosophy that relies entirely on a system of oppressor and oppressed. It is therefore a system that is actually fundamentally unjust. The point of the word justice is that it is a blind system. That is why Lady Justice has the blindfold on, because it is supposed to be a blind system whereby the weight of evidence is given purely to, well, the evidence and the meritocracy thereof. Whereas if you amend it to be social justice, now justice has to be taking into account all other things such as ethnicity and gender and class and wealth, which actually therefore completely undermines the concept of true justice.
So social justice warriors are people who are fighting for equality and fairness in a society or culture.
No, they are fighting for equity in a society that ignores merit.
And this is supposed to be an insult? I don't understand this.
That's probably because you don't actually understand the term social justice.
But I mean, hey, if we want clever terms for people, we can come up with a name for the people on the other side of this fight, if you want to call it that.
Why are you so desperate to turn this into an us versus them style debate?
So clearly they're still trying to do things within a society or culture. So we can start with the word social again, that's good. But we can't use the word justice again because they seem to think that's a bad thing, and we'll go with what they're campaigning for, which is inequality. Now for the third word, it would be tempting to use something biting or scathing, some kind of insult. But these people have already been pretty generous to us by referring to us as warriors. That's a cool word. I like that. I want to be a warrior. And one of the most annoying ways to defeat an opponent is to be kinder to them than they are to you. So let's do that, and let's also choose a word with some historical and racial connotations that are kind of appropriate in this context. I nominate crusader. So let's call these people social inequality crusaders. And hey, unlike social justice warrior, the acronym can even be pronounced sick. So we've got social justice warriors on one side fighting against some sick individuals who perform sick actions and generally make the world a little sicker. So if you wanted two sides to this conflict, there you go. I've named the other side for you. You're welcome. If you know a sick individual, don't hold it against them. Most of them were raised to be sick. Don't tolerate them, but don't hate them either. After all, hate is a pretty sick thing, and it's only going to make you a little bit sicker yourself.
Are you done intellectually filleting yourself now because you came up with what you think is a funny abbreviation? But putting your general sense of narcissism aside, what I would like you to do now is to find me one example, just one actual example, where a social justice warrior has actually done something good for the world that could not have been done by an egalitarian or a humanist. And no, Twitter hashtags do not count.